Hi, I'm Lee. Welcome to another episode of Let's Fix Traffic. We're back in Las Vegas, sent in by city builder FezVrasta. In part 1, we cleared up problems with roundabouts, stop signs, and traffic lights without making any big changes to the city layout. Things are moving again on the streets of downtown Las Vegas. In part 1, we also identified the good points and the bad points of Las Vegas, so if you missed that video, please go back and check out part 1. Now, one of the things we identified was serious gridlock on both rail lines and in the industrial areas. We're going to attack these problems in part 2. This will get delivery trucks flowing through our commercial zones, solving the problems of not enough goods to sell, which you can see in the background over here if you look at downtown. Now, once these delivery trucks are unleashed, I expect more traffic problems to happen downtown. We're going to deal with those and fix public transportation in part 3. Now, since recording part 1, Colossal Order has dropped another update along with the Sunset Harbor DLC. This city uses several mods which were broken with the update and have since been fixed. And with the update, some things may look a little bit different. I'll list all the mods I use in the description. I also realized that I missed a couple of spots when we fixed downtown in part 1, so I went through and corrected some of those off camera before starting this video. Another problem I think you'll notice is that we've lost about 15,000 in population. We were about 73,000 or so, and I think the city might have been up as high as 80,000 in population at some point or another. That is likely due, if we take a look at our info views, to our senior population. We have a very large senior population, about 26%, and we have a huge adult population, which is almost 40%. Now, I'm not sure about adults, but I know for sure seniors do not have children. They do not raise families. Only young adults have families, and of course that includes the teens and the children. So we have a very small young demographic, and we have a very low death rate, very reasonable middle of the road birth rate for the number of cims we have in our city. I think that that's depressing our population growth, though, the fact that we don't have as many childbearing age cims in Las Vegas. Now, if we take a look at our city statistics, that actually gets borne out pretty well too. Look, right here, it looks like peak population was around 73,000 cims. And if we take a look right here in about 2043, we can see that our death rate was pretty low. So we just had a death wave. Our birth rate had just dropped, and our influx was at its lowest. Now that rebounded a little bit, but then after I recorded part 1 and we engaged the update, I ran the sim for a little while to balance things out a little bit. After that, everything just tanked. The birth rate's still there, but there's not been a whole lot of influx, and there's not been a whole lot of deaths in Las Vegas. So I think that that's depressing the amount of young sims having children, and it's depressed our death rate for sure. I think some of those are brought about by changes that accompanied the Sunset Harbor update. So this is a problem that I'm not really even sure if it's going to go away. We might just have to turn this back over to our city builder, who will expand the city and get some of those residents back. So first off, we want to take care of, well, let's take a look quick and just see where we are on this city. Last time I went through and fixed our traffic problems in the downtown area. And if we look at the traffic view, we do have a few trouble spots, but if we zoom in, we can see that even the red spots are moving pretty well. So that's exactly what we want to see. Now, we still do have an awful lot of these not enough goods to sell icons showing up. And that's because our delivery trucks aren't getting through to our commercial zones. We look over here in our industrial area, there's a couple of reasons why. First off, we have gridlock over here in this area. This area here is all generic industry. Those goods are having a difficult time getting out, and that is a huge problem that we need to solve. because of the gridlock up here. The other problem that we have is this district right here. Trucks can get in, but there's no way out. Not out of the highway, not by rail. Now, since releasing part 1, I actually got a chance to talk with a city builder, and they mentioned that they had always planned on building a rail terminal somewhere out here. I don't know if we're going to do exactly that because we have other problems with the rail system that I just don't want to exacerbate. That's probably why the city builder never got around to it. But I am going to connect it to the highway, and I'm going to do that, though, after we go in and deal with the rail problems that we have. It's really pretty bad. There's really not a whole lot of movement going on here, so let's take a look at what our problems are. Now, this is going to create some issues here with the trains coming in and out of this passenger station so close to our cargo train terminal. So what we are going to do is just go ahead and remove all this passenger traffic from the area here. There's a couple rail lines here. Let me go ahead and check, make sure that we're not going to disrupt any other passenger lines here. Nope, this looks okay, mostly. So we'll be okay with that. And that will allow me to turn off this train station for the time being. Another thing we're going to do to just reduce the amount of traffic coming in is we're going to make it so that only this station gets intercity trains. So we're going to turn intercity trains off here. And we're going to turn them off over here. I'm not even really sure that intercity trains can even reach Las Vegas. It looks like that's the only way in. Well, yeah, I suppose they could come over here. So it's good that we cut that down a little bit by making it so intercity trains... Actually, I want them there. I don't want them here. Alright, so only this station here will take intercity train traffic. So that solves that problem. Now we won't have a bottleneck over here. Now, we do have bottlenecks elsewhere. For example, right here, it looks like the city builder was trying to separate some of the traffic so that trains could go back and forth between these two terminals. That seems like a good idea to me, but I want to make sure that we don't have any crossover here. So trains that are essentially going into the city will be forced to take this track instead of the other one. So I'm going to use Traffic Manager President Edition's Lane Connector tool. And I'm going to force these trains, at least for now, to only take that track. I'm going to do the same thing here. And then I won't have to worry too much about them going in here. This should work. And then I think we're okay here. Although I really would prefer them not go over this bridge. So I'm going to force trains to go that way. Now over here, in order to keep things moving, I'm going to force this line to go here and this track to go here. Now, since we can have trains leave on both sides here, I want to actually set that so that the trains will only leave on that same track. That won't block this intersection up too severely. Let's just check and see if our passenger traffic can still get through. It looks like we're good. So now it's just a matter of waiting to see if this will clear out. We'll let this go for a little while and check up on it. For the most part, it looks like some of this is... It looks like things are moving here. So I'm just going to let that work itself out while we deal with some other things. Alright, so this district over here, we have an awful lot of resources that just can't get out. We look at imports and exports. We can see lots of imports of raw ore products, but nothing finished is really getting out unless, actually, I don't know how these are getting out. It looks like they're supposed to get out, but they're not going to. So it's causing some abandonment issues here. So what we're going to do is just make it so the trucks can go out here and come to this highway. I'm only going to make this an entrance, so our trucks will be able to get into this neighborhood on these two ramps. Yep, just those two ramps. And they'll be able to get out on a couple of ramps that I'll build over here. One will take them into the city, one will take them all to the highway. So I'm going to start out with my network extension, small heavy roads. I'm going to use the 4-lane asymmetrical road tool, which has 1 lane in one direction and 3 in the other. So I'll just go ahead and upgrade these. Then I need to move this garbage facility so it won't be in the way of the new road. Now I can extend this 2-lane road off towards the highway. So I'm going to use Anarchy here, which is a little trick I use to build underpasses. I want this to be about 12 meters deep. Looks like I made a mistake. I have to switch that to ground. I'm going to use a mod here that some of you might not be familiar with. It's the topographical lines toggle mod. Right here, if I click on this topo button, it will give me the lines that you normally only see when you're in terraforming mode. And the reason why we like this mod is because as soon as we switch over to the road tool, those lines disappear. But if I use the topographical lines toggle, whoops. If you use the topographical lines toggle, we can have the road tool on and still see the lines. So now I'm just going to go ahead and extend this and connect this up to the highway right here. I'm going to go ahead and fix the grades here. I'm going to reverse that road though, so I don't end up with trucks getting in my way as I'm working. Now I'm just going to make sure that I have 12 meters of separation between the surface of my upper road and the surface of my lower road. So we'll use the Move It mod to fix that. Okay, now my next trick, we want to have a bridge here. We could use these segments just the way they are, but I think it looks a lot neater if we build some guide roads and force those nodes where we want them. Now, we can go back and change those to elevated. And we have our two bridges right where we want them. It's not perfect, but it will work. Alright, so let's go ahead and build the other ramp. Keep in mind we want to have our angles be less than 45 degrees so our trucks don't have to slow down. Let me fix the grades here. So now I just need to fix this lane connector right here. Add one here. Looks like my angle might be a little off here, so I'm going to use Move It to fix it. And I'll adjust the grade a little bit here too, right here. And just take care of this one nice spot. And we're good. Okay, so now let's see if they can make this work a little better. It looks like we have a bunch of traffic lights. We go into our traffic routes view, we can go through and disable all of these. And I'm going to set these up as stop signs so that the main road has priority. Hopefully that will get enough trucks through off of the side streets. And it looks like I didn't set up this roundabout right here, like I did in part 1. Alrighty then. So now I want to make sure that our trucks don't have to worry about blocking the intersection. I'm going to allow that in my junction restrictions so that trucks coming in the heavy traffic direction from the roundabout don't have to worry about blocking. And then the last thing I'm going to do is set dedicated left turn lanes in both directions for trucks so that hopefully everything will be very free flowing through here. And that should do it. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and watch downtown. I'll speed up the clock and we can watch downtown and see how this turns out. Some of our trains are still getting stuck, so I'm going to restrict some movements right here a little bit more. There we go. Also going to correct this while I'm here. That should work. Now we have a great deal of trucks coming onto the highway right here. Going out of town. We have a great number of trucks trying to get in too, and I think that's going to cause some problems here. So I'm going to go ahead and change up some of the lane assignments here. For starters, I'm going to... I like to have at least 2 lanes on a highway section, especially for my main line, like right here. So I'm going to go ahead and downgrade that to 2 lanes. I don't want to go all the way down to 1. And then I'm going to widen that to 4. And then we'll drop that lane. Actually, set that down to 2, and I'm going to make this one a 2-lane section. Coming up here, because I really want this to flow a lot better, so I also don't really want everything getting jammed up at the roundabout. So I'm going to add a 2-lane one-way road right here that connects these roads. And I'm going to use my network extensions 4-lane one-way road right here. And that'll give me 2 left turn lanes right there. Now all I have to do is use the lane connector to work out some of the bottlenecks here. So this is going to cause some lane switching right here, but I think I'll be okay with that. Once we get down here, it'll split down nice and evenly. And so now we'll use the lane connector and fix up some of these merge and split sites. Have dedicated merge lanes over here, as well as here. And we don't need these forced merges right here, so we'll get rid of those. And then this is a problem. We want that to merge into the right lane, not the center one. And here we're going to do a split in the center lane, which we can get away with a lot of times in exit situations, as long as the lane doesn't back up. And that's already flowing a lot better than it was before. I'll move this down here, so that those trucks have a little more time to run. I'm going to force that. No, it looks like it's going to work. That's going to be a slow spot just because of the weaving area, but I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. I could force them to stay in their lanes. There wouldn't be any harm in that. I'm not going to worry about it though right now. So now that's flowing a lot better than it was before. We still have a lot of weave areas that are real problematic because we have trucks that are entering on the right and they need to switch over maybe 2 lanes or a 1 lane at least to get off onto this highway here. In some cases, we also have trucks that are on the main line here and they want to exit up here. And that's trouble because we've got a bunch of trucks trying to come on at the same place. So this is really just, it's a terribly short distance between ramps that's really causing this. But the good news is it looks like our trains are flowing freely now. So that means we can make some adjustments here. Let me make it so we're not forcing trains to stay in town here. This will allow them to go either direction, to leave the city or to come into the station right here from these 2 rail lines. Since we're not congested so much, we can allow trains to have a little more leeway. The other thing I'm going to do is this terminal right here is not getting used because the rail here is at more than a 45-degree angle. So I'm just going to move it to soften that a little bit, and that should allow trains to go back and forth with this terminal. It might take a few trucks. It might take a few trucks off of the highway here. Now let's watch and see if we see any of these not enough goods disappear. So it looks like we have a problem with this station right here. Doesn't look like things are getting through in both directions. So let me figure out what's going on here. Can't quite figure this one out here. Looks like it should be going through. I tried deleting some of these. Still doesn't seem like it's working right. So I'm going to go ahead and just change up my connection, make sure I can go both ways at this junction. And then I'm going to just delete this line and redo it. Like so. There we go. Now everything should be able to move through. We shouldn't have any problems with these trains getting through. So we have a lot better traffic flow with our delivery trucks. Our delivery trucks are getting through a lot better. We don't see anywhere near as much abandonment. We still have a few of these not enough goods to sell icons, not nearly as many as before, but they're still popping up. Now some of that might resolve if we let this continue to run. I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen though, because we really have a lot of very, very slow spots on our highway. We also have some serious gridlock over here in this part of town. Now, what part of the problem is that we have the rail terminal right here is in the same place as the only ramp into this neighborhood. Now, if we had a different location for this, that might not be as big of a problem. But as it is, all the trucks are trying to go to the same place, and they're all trying to come in, and there's just an onslaught of trucks. And I just don't think that this one terminal is probably enough to handle this much rail traffic, this much truck traffic. Now, another thing we could do, let's take a look at imports and exports again. If we look at imports, we're not importing anywhere near as many goods as we were in our downtown area. That's good, but we are importing a ton of ore products, and we're exporting almost everything that we make. We're not really exporting any finished goods. Now, in City Skylines, we really want to be exporting goods above all else, especially if we have any specialized industries supplying those goods. production facilities, those goods manufacturers. So what we really don't want to see is a whole lot of import of raw materials and then exporting of products, but not goods. So why don't we go ahead and try to reduce some of the traffic problems that we have here by just eliminating some of this industry we really don't need. All right, so this here is not needed, so let's get rid of that. And we'll move this right here. So this will be a little bit more efficient than it was before. We can probably get rid of this street here. And I'm going to get rid of the agricultural zones over here too. Now, one of the things you could be thinking is, what about employment? What about jobs? Well, we're at 4% now. We could probably lose another 2,000, and I think 30,000 jobs is plenty for this size city right now. We can always bring them back later after we fix some of these configuration problems with our street network. Okay, so another thing we could do here is force all of our trucks to turn right for the most part here and go to the roundabout rather than trying to take a shortcut. I'll let these ones turn left. But otherwise, I want everybody going through the roundabout if they're coming from this direction over here from the highway. Split up traffic just a little bit better. So just for fun, we're going to add make a couple of small changes here, because I think it will help improve traffic flow. I'm going to put a traffic signal right there. That'll allow these trucks to get out finally. So at this point, I undertook a great experiment where I eliminated that roundabout and reconfigured this entire little part of the neighborhood to have a big giant jug handle, as you can see right there. And just gave this a shot to see if we could make traffic move a little better. Let me just preface this by saying it did not work out very well, not as well as I'd hoped. So I'm not going to get into all the details here. I'm just going to let you watch and see if you can catch on what I did here. A lot of the right turns that I forced onto this jug handle really did not pan out very well. It really basically is the same thing as a roundabout, except that it was a left turn roundabout instead of a right turn roundabout, which sort of defeated the purpose. So eventually I give up on this concept and I try again, and it worked out a lot better this time. Neither one of these were particularly well thought out, but I definitely feel like adding the extra one-way road out of that neighborhood really helped my cause in reducing the amount of traffic going through this neighborhood. We still have all those right turns forced. I probably should have taken those off. Probably could have used timed traffic lights, a bunch of different things that would have worked out really well. But what I ended up doing worked okay. I'm just not going to get into the details of all of this, and just skip right on here. I upgraded that so that it would be highway, so a little faster, and I added a couple of lanes right there. So, in the end, it was a nice experiment, but it wasn't one that worked out super duper well. It was a little better than the roundabout, but not to the level that I felt like I needed to share all the details of how we did this. So it looks like if we have enough lanes appropriate in the right places and we put our traffic lights in the right spots, then we can actually get this to clear out a little bit better than it was when we just had a roundabout here. So the good news is there are no more backups in this neighborhood. For the most part, we've alleviated all of this by replacing that roundabout. Our highway, on the other hand, is a different story. We've got a lot of short merges and really only one good way in and out. That's causing a lot of problems. And over here back in downtown, we're not seeing very many, but we are still seeing a few of those not enough goods to sell indicators. And one other thing I wanted to point out is we really have an imbalance with our imports and exports. We have a ton more ore coming in and going out than we really ever would consume. That's really completely unnecessary, and it's really pretty much the story of all of the specialized goods that we have in this neighborhood. So rather than trying to rescue this, I think what we're going to do is reconfigure it. We're just going to bulldoze everything just about. We're going to leave Turpex here. We might leave those power plants in their relative positions, and we're going to keep that port. But we're going to demolish all the highway and all the roads and the rails up to about here so that we can build a little bit more robust system of roads, and we can get rid of the snaking road so that the trucks don't have so far to go to get back and forth from the industry. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get my bulldozer tool going on here and just start bulldozing some of this highway here. So I wanted to make sure that I deleted those metro lines before I got to deleting the metro stations. And then I realized I could use the Move It tool to demolish a whole bunch of things all at once. And then just clean up a little bit here and there with the bulldozer, hopefully. Works out pretty well with all the roads and the rails. Just cut that off a little bit there, nice and neat. Make sure I leave the road in front of Turpex. Get rid of the neighborhoods, and then I want to get rid of the pipes, although I kind of highlighted too much. And then I highlighted too little. Apparently the tips of the pipes, the pipe junctions, are actually buildings. So keep that in mind when you're using the Move It tool. It makes it kind of a mess to try to figure out how to clean up later. So now I'm just trying to delete everything the right way, sort of failing at it. I'll fix it later. Alrighty then. I've demolished everything from our old industrial neighborhood, and all I have left here are Turpex and power plants. I have to fix a road here a little bit. Our next order of business will be to rough in the highways and lay out our industrial neighborhood so we don't get choked by an onslaught of trucks. Now, this took me quite a while, so I actually made this into 2 more videos. A bonus video, which will show how I laid out the neighborhood, and then a new crash course video on how to build the stack interchange. So please check these out. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And so you don't miss the wonderful results of our total rebuild here in Las Vegas, subscribe. So long.